There we are. So, welcome to our first presentation of the year from the Danby Community Council. This one's going to be a program presented by the Cornell Raptor Program, and we'll meet Kelsey Levine and Crystal Chong in a moment. It's entitled Meet the Raptors. And let me make a request for all of those of you who are here. Please leave your audio muted and your video off unless you have a question, and try to break in politely with questions if you have them, or we can answer questions at the end. No problem if you put things in the chat. Keep it nice, folks. This is the first of what we hope to be many programs during the year. We're having Meet the Raptors Part 1 today. In a month from now, 4 weeks from now, we'll have Meet the Raptors Part 2 on Sunday, February 7th, also at 3 o'clock. And for those of you who have a reason to find February 14th a special day, or even for those of you who do not, we will be presenting virtual love songs, romantic melodies, and whatnot on Sunday, February 14th, 3 p.m. with Dennis Wing. Well, people are coming in right and left. That's great. Let me take off this screen right now. There we are. That's us. I'm going to disappear, and although it may say Kelsey, that's really Crystal on there. And Crystal, if you're good, you're on.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Go right ahead.
Okay, cool. All right. So, yeah, my name is Crystal, and I am a member of the Cornell Raptor Program. So, there's this little birds.
Cute.
So, I'm going to introduce you to the Cornell Raptor Program, talk about a little bit of the history. So, back in 1970, the Peregrine Fund was founded by a professor of ornithology at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. His name was Tom Cade, and his primary purpose was to breed the peregrine falcon because they were facing extinction due to the pesticide DDT, which thins their eggshells and basically breaks them. So the population of the peregrine falcon was declining. And then in 1984, the Cornell facility was actually merged with the Colorado facility, and they moved to their current location in Idaho. And they formed the World Center of Birds of Prey. So after that, in 1993, the Cornell Raptor Program was founded by Dr. John Clark, who was an animal science professor here at Cornell University. And in 2016, ownership was transferred to Dr. Heather Huson, who is also a professor at Cornell Animal Science Department. And the four main goals of the Cornell Raptor Program are education, first and foremost. So we do public outreach like we are right now, as well as teach the students how to handle the raptors. Also, research. We do non-invasive research here. One of the examples that we do is the Feather Project. We also focus on raptor rehabilitation and also propagation. And our aim here is to spread awareness about birds of prey and increase our appreciation for raptors. So this is kind of a little bit of a special program because obviously we are virtual right now. So this brings up some good news and also some limitations to the program. We will be having a barn tour in a little bit, which we usually do not do for other people. And you will also be able to see eagles and who usually do not go on programs. Obviously, the limitation is that we're talking through a screen. So yeah, and So I'm going to talk about a little bit about what is a raptor. So you hear a lot about birds of prey, and you might be wondering how we define a bird of prey. So unlike what you might think, they are actually not taxonomy defined. They're actually physically defined. And they are defined as birds who kill and eat animals with their, so they kill with their feet, essentially. And that leads to another similar physical characteristics such as a hooked beak, very strong talons, and also keen eyes to see their prey. And without further ado, we're going to start with the first bird of prey with Kelsey coming in.
Right. Hi, everyone. So this is the first bird that we're going to talk about today. So my name is Kelsey, and this bird right here is a red-tailed hawk. So there are three main groups of raptors that we're going to talk about today with our presentation. So the first group are the hawks. And there are two main groups of hawks. You have your buteos, or your soaring hawks, and your accipiters, or your forest hawks. So E3 here is a red-tailed hawk, which is a type of soaring hawk. And the main difference between soaring hawks and forest hawks is that you'll mainly find the soaring hawks in big open spaces. They typically have very broad, wide wings, and you'll find them hunting mostly mammals like squirrels and rabbits and that kind of thing. And they have a very long rudder-like tail, which is, or actually the buteos have the short tail, the short fan-like tail, which is useful for helping them glide from air currents. And then the forest hawks, or the accipiters, these are the hawks that are a little bit more secretive and less used to people. So they tend to be a little bit harder to keep in captivity. And so these guys will hunt mainly birds. So they have much shorter wings, and they have a longer rudder-like tail that they use to steer through tight forest spaces. And then these guys will have much longer toes, which they'll kind of use like a net to kind of reach out and grab through the feathers of their prey, which will be mainly birds. So E3, as I mentioned here, is a red-tailed hawk, which is a forest hawk. So red-tailed hawks are one of the most common hawks that you'll find in this area and also across North America. So you can identify them by their nice kind of light beige chest and this kind of dark brown and barring on their chest. And then of course, if you see them flying overhead, you can see their nice bright reddish orange tail. So an interesting fact about the red tail is that red-tailed hawks actually don't get the red tail when they're born. They so the juveniles will look kind of like this, but they won't have the red tail yet. And then as they grow and get a little bit older, they will eventually get those red-colored tail feathers in after a couple of years. So in the wild, red-tailed hawks generally live to be around 20 to 25 years old. And then in captivity, they can actually live to be quite a bit longer, sometimes even as old as 30. So E3 here, he was actually hatched right here on Cornell's campus. So if you've ever seen the Cornell, the ornithology lab will put up red-tailed hawk cameras, and they will kind of show a nesting pair of red-tailed hawks as they're raising their chicks. And so that kind of gives a unique view for people about how the red-tailed hawks raise their chicks. So E3's parents were named Big Red and Ezra. And so they have usually a clutch of 3 chicks per year. And so they named all of the chicks with a letter. So for E3 was the E year, and then he was the third chick in the clutch. So he ended up being named E3. Now, unfortunately, on the day that E3 fledged, he was not very experienced at flying yet, and flew into a greenhouse window and perched there. And so the greenhouse window was an automatic vent, and it began to slowly close on his wing. So unfortunately, his wing was broken from that incident, and it didn't really heal fully, so he's not really able to fly long distances, and he would not be able to return to the wild because of that. But he makes a really good ambassador for his species, which is the red-tailed hawk. And he is a great bird for students to handle and work with in the program. So if there are any questions about E3 or about red-tailed hawks in general, we can take a few questions now. So please feel free to speak up or ask your question in the chat. So someone asked, how old is E3? So E3 is an interesting case because of a lot of our birds, if we get them once they're past like their chick or juvenile stage, then it's hard to tell how old they are exactly. But with E3, because we got him as a juvenile, we do know how old he is. So he was hatched in 2014, so he is almost 7 years old. And then another person asked, was the Danby white hawk a red tail? So it's very possible. There's what's called a leucistic red-tailed hawk, which is actually quite common. And it's kind of like an albino, but they have normal colored eyes. So it's definitely possible that it could be a red tail. Okay, so with that, I guess we will go ahead and get on to our next type of bird, which is the falcon.
Hello, everyone. I am back with Artemis. She is our resident peregrine falcon. So as suggested with the name, she is a type of falcon. They are actually quite different from the hawk and the other types of birds that we have here, and I will explain. So unlike the hawks who usually soar and go after their prey that way, falcons actually stoop after their prey, which means they dive really, really quickly after their prey. And also, unlike the hawk, who mostly gets after ground prey, these birds, falcons, actually will stoop after mostly other birds, such as songbirds. So because of their differences in hunting styles, they also have a bunch, some adaptations that will that differ between the falcon and the hawk. So you might have noticed with E3, but red-tailed hawks and other hawks have fingered broad wings at the edge of their tips. And if you can see with Artemis, her wings are actually pointed. So their second primary feather from the outside is actually the longest feather that they have, which create this point at the end of their wingtips. And so that is to reduce drag on during their flight and increase the thrust. If you think about this in physics terms, and what she just did there was arouse. They shake all their feathers at once, and that is a sign of contentment. So she's actually quite calm right now. And another adaptation of a falcon is their beak. So they're, unlike hawks, falcons have something called a toenail tooth. You might be able to see it. Yeah, you can see it on her. They have a notched beak, and that is used to sever the vertebrae of their prey. So after they stoop and they catch their birds and prey, they actually reach down with their beak and snap their prey with it. And also because they don't primarily kill with their beak and not their talons, their feet are actually quite small and nimble compared to a hawk's larger feet. One other adaptation is that they actually have something called nasal baffles in their nose. That is to reduce the amount of air going into their nose and to like divert it outside of their nose so that they are able to reach their fast flight speed. So Artemis here is a peregrine falcon and also known as the duck hawk because they primarily hunt ducks and as well as other birds. One other adaptation that I forgot to mention before is that they have mallard stripes down their face. It's not as prominent on the peregrine falcon, but like if you look at an American kestrel, for example, they have prominent like side burns essentially, and it is thought that that it diverts, it basically absorbs light so that they will be able to see fast, clear. And so one interesting thing about peregrine falcon is actually they're actually the fastest bird in the world. So their stoop can go up to 250 miles per hour, which is very fast, incredibly fast. So Artemis here is at our program. We got her around, I think, 2018, and she came to us as a juvenile. So she also had to have her right wing amputated at the carpals, which is the human equivalent of our wrist. So if she were to flap over her wings again, you can see that her right wing is doesn't have that tip like the left wing does. Yeah, she came as a juvenile, and also like the hawk. I think Kelsey mentioned about like the tail of a red-tailed hawk not coming in right away. So their plumage actually also changes in a peregrine falcon. So in a juvenile peregrine falcon, they're actually more barred on the chest, and now that she has a couple of years has passed and she's molted to her adult plumage, you can see that her top side is not as barred as her bottom side. And yeah, that's the peregrine falcon. And if anyone has, how fast is Artemis? So Artemis can't actually really fly because of the amputation in her right wing. Yeah, she can't really go that far, but on a normal peregrine falcon, they can go up to a stoop of 250 miles per hour. And if there's any other questions, feel free to ask in the chat.
Someone asks, what is Artemis's favorite dinner
What is Artemis's favorite dinner?
or breakfast?
Our resident falcons usually eat quail. Since falcons usually have birds as their diet, we give them birds in their diet, and yeah, that's basically quail. How old is Artemis? She is. So we got her around 2018. So I think she's around like 2 to 3 years old. So she's pretty young. All right, I think with that, we're going to move on to the next type of bird, which is the owl.
All right, so this is the third type of raptor that we're going to talk about today, which is the great horned owl. So owls are pretty unique among raptors. they're pretty different from hawks and eagles and falcons. So the main reason for this is because owls are nocturnal. So whereas most other raptors are diurnal, meaning they hunt during the day, owls will hunt mostly at night. And for this reason, they have a couple of different adaptations that help them to be able to see and to locate their prey at night. So first of all, you notice that Gertie here has a really kind of broad, flat face. And she kind of has this circle of feathers around her eyes. Hard to tell right now because she's looking away. But if she looks back around, you could tell it's kind of like this kind of disc. So it's called a facial disc. And so basically what that does is it kind of funnels the sound waves towards her ears so that she can hear better and more precisely where the sound is coming from. Another interesting fact about owl hearing is that owls' ears are actually asymmetrical. So their ears will be located higher up on one side of their head than the other side. So this is kind of similar to if you've ever seen a dog tilt its head, that's what it's doing. It's kind of putting its ears in different locations to try to get a better idea of where that sound is coming from. So owls also have very incredible night vision. So you'll notice that Gertie has these very large yellow eyes. And so an interesting fact about owl eyes is if you take your hand and put it in a fist and put it up to your face, that's how large your eyes would be if you were an owl. So that helps them get as much light as possible into their eyes so they can see really well at night. So this also means that owls really don't have very good color vision. They really don't see in much color at all. So that's kind of to compensate for the fact that they have really good night vision in the light and dark, but the color vision is not as important for them. So if hawks are built for soaring and falcons are built to be really, really fast, then owls are built to fly silently. So if you get a chance to see an owl feather, it's very, very soft and kind of has these fringed edges to it. So what that does is it kind of muffles the sound and helps the owl fly almost silently, since owls are hunting a lot of prey that is active at night, and so their prey might also have really good hearing, so the owl needs to be able to fly very quietly in order to sneak up on its prey. So Gertie here is a great horned owl, and that's one of the largest owl species in North America. So these guys, they have a wingspan of about 4 to 5 feet, and they generally weigh around 3 to 4 pounds. So the only owls that are bigger are the snowy owls, which are kind of similar in weight, and great gray owls are a little bit bigger in wingspan, but they're not quite as heavy. So great horned owls are pretty much the apex predator of the raptor world. They hunt almost any other kind of food. So their favorite food is going to be mammals like rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, those kinds of things. But they'll also go after other birds like starlings, chickadees, songbirds. They'll even go after smaller raptors like other hawks, crows, sometimes even ospreys and smaller owls. And they will also sometimes even hunt insects as well as reptiles like snakes and like amphibians like frogs. And they've even been known to hunt skunks and porcupines. So these guys will eat pretty much anything. And so one other interesting thing that you might notice about them is their ear tufts. So a lot of owls have ear tufts, and it's thought that in smaller owls, the ear tufts might be useful for camouflage. So having the ear tuft kind of helps break up their outline when they're standing against a tree. So it looks less like the shape of an owl to a predator. Great horned owls, though, are so large that they don't really need to camouflage from predators because they don't really have any. So it's thought that the ear tufts in owls might be useful for hunting, or not for hunting, but for communicating with family members. So for that reason, they'll kind of like raise and lower their ear tufts, and they can kind of recognize each other based on the shape of their ear tufts. So Gertrude here is one of our best Great Horned Owl program birds. So we've had her since 2011. So we think she's probably at least 8 or 9 years old. And although she could be older, it's hard to tell for sure. But she came to us from the Cornell Wildlife Health Center, and she had a really bad wing injury. And we think that she was probably attacked by a skunk because she smelled like one when she came in. So we think that she was probably trying to catch it for dinner, and the skunk did not appreciate that and was trying to fight back and injured her wing that way. So part of her wing did have to be amputated. So she's no longer able to fly, but she makes a really good ambassador for her species. So there are a couple of questions in the chat here. So the first one is, how long does it take, and what methods do you use to tame the birds and get them acclimated to people? That is a great question. And it kind of depends on the bird. So usually what we'll do is when we first get a bird, we will have a specific person who's experienced with handling the raptors before, kind of work with that bird and train that bird to get them used to being in captivity and get them used to being around people. And we use like positive methods, like rewarding them with food to try to get them to associate people with a good thing. And then we will gradually kind of get them more used to being around larger groups of people and kind of assess how comfortable they are being in large groups, so that we can kind of tell how they would do as an education bird. The next question was, do owls mate for life? And the answer is yes. So most raptor species are monogamous. So that means once they have a mate, they will stick with that same mate throughout their entire lives, unless something happens to one of the birds in the pair, and then the remaining bird might find another mate if their previous mate dies. So another person asked, who are the predators of the smaller owls? So these guys. So great horned owls will prey on larger or smaller owls, and even you might get like larger owls, like medium-sized, like barred owls, preying possibly on the smallest owls like screech owls. And then you might also get some predators like bobcats, foxes, crows, those kinds of birds going after smaller owls and killing them, especially with the fledglings. If they're not fully flighted yet, it's definitely going to be easier for a predator to go after them. So one person mentioned that a great horned owl caught one of their chickens. They do hunt before dark, yes. So yes. So an interesting fact about this is with the owl, the great horned owls tend to hunt mainly around dusk is when they're most active, and also very early in the morning. And then you do have other owls, like short-eared owls and snowy owls that can be awake during the day sometimes. So not all owls are completely nocturnal. So this person also said, crows mob the great horned owls near my house in the morning or the evening. And I think that means do they kill crows? So they definitely would. And a lot of times what great horned owls will do is they'll try to chase crows out of their nests and take over their nesting sites, since great horned owls don't really build their own nests. So for this reason, a lot of crows and hawks really don't like great horned owls. So they will get together and try to mob great horned owls. So one other person asked, how many owls are in our area? So it kind of depends on the species. Great horned owls are pretty numerous. So there's, it's pretty likely that you'll be able to hear them, especially like if you live near a woodsy area, or if you have kind of like a nest box or something out for owls, you're pretty likely to be able to hear them at night. So if there are any more questions, I can answer those now, either about owls or about any of our birds or anything that we do at the Raptor program. So we are going to go move on to some of our facilities tour so you guys can see what our aviaries look like and kind of how we do things around the Raptor program. When should we put out a nest box for owls? Great question. So owls, you can put a nest box out for them pretty much all year round. So they'll probably be looking for new nesting sites around the spring, probably March, April, would be a good time to put a nest box out if you're hoping to have a pair move into the area. But owls like barred owls and screech owls and even great horned owls take really well to nesting boxes. So it's a great idea to put one out for them if you're hoping to attract them. How much at risk is my dog when he is out in my fenced out backyard from any raptor? He is a mutt, but maybe Isha Opso size? I'm not certain what kind of dog that is. But I think it's pretty unusual for raptors to go after people's animals, especially if people are nearby. They tend to kind of want to stay away from people most of the time, even though they kind of have adapted to living near people. So it is definitely a good idea to just make sure you have your pets kind of like close by, like don't let your cats go wandering around outside because they could be at risk from getting picked up by a hawk that way. But I think most dogs are usually, as long as they're around people, they should be fine. All right, so I think Crystal is going to go ahead and show you some of our larger outside aviaries, and you'll get to see some of our other eagles. So that is pretty unique for this kind of program. So I think I'm going to go ahead and turn off the video here, and she is going to join from her phone, so that way she can show you what's going on out in those aviaries.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. If you turn your phone sideways, we'll get a bigger picture.
My phone just turned off. Okay, yep. All right, so we are going to come outside and see some of our eagles. Hello. So we have here two different kinds of eagle. This is Gracie, our resident bald eagle. And then if we come over here, we have Esther, who is our resident golden eagle. Hang on, I think my phone just shut off on me again. Okay, so as you can see, sorry, can you guys still hear me? My phone keeps shutting off on me.
Your voice comes through clear.
Okay, cool. I'll just keep talking then. Yeah, so these guys are actually in the same family as hawks. What is different about them is that they are massive, 2 to 3 times the size of hawks, and so large that our only our most experienced members are able to handle them. So like hawks, they do soar in the sky. They do tend to go after bigger prey. So a difference between the golden eagle and the bald eagle is that bald eagles are actually fish eagles. They tend to go after fish more often than say mammals. One other distinct feature of the eagle compared to the hawk is that Um, they actually enter their full plumage after 4 to 5 years instead of 2 to 3 years like the hawk. So like for the bald eagle, you actually won't be able to see their white head and their white tail until around 4 to 5 years of age. And as you can hear, that was Gracie's vocalization. And one thing that you might be wondering is that why are they vocalizing like that? It sounds a lot different than what you would hear in movies. So actually, what you hear in movies is usually an eagle in the sky, but they actually dub over a vocalization of a red-tailed hawk over the bald eagle. Not sure why they do that. I think they might think that the vocalization you hear is not majestic enough for a bald eagle. I'm not entirely sure. And one interesting thing about the golden eagle is that they are actually used in falconry. So usually in falconry that you usually use the smaller birds such as hawks and falcons. Owls not so much, but you can also use a golden eagle. If you have heard the Mongolian eagle hunters, they use these golden eagles to hunt, and they usually hunt large prey such as foxes and hares and deer. So yeah, that's all about the eagles. I can't really see the chat right now, so I'm gonna move right on to a short tour of our 2 facilities. So this here is called the Danby Raptor facility, also known as East House. You can see that these are large aviaries that with one side open to the outside. So as you can see in Gracie's room, you have a bunch of platforms. Rocks as the ground so that whatever moisture goes inside actually seeps down. We also give them a water bowl, and it's currently frozen because it's below freezing out here. And yeah, and we also tailor each of these aviaries to the specific bird. So like if, for example, a bird has an amputated wing and cannot fly, we make sure there is a way for them to get from the ground up to a platform or perch. Like you see here, there's branches coming down from the ground to the perches. There's no bird in here right now, but yeah. And if we go inside, weigh bird and do other health related stuff. And this is where we're also presenting our birds, as you can see by the setup over here. Yeah, a bunch of health ointments and stuff like that down here. And then if we come back out and open this door, this is the hallway where we can access the aviaries. So each bird, for the most part, gets their own aviary, and you can look in here. There's the Nolly or snowy owl. And yeah, so in this, since it's currently in the winter, the birds that are in here are mostly birds that can tolerate the cold, such as the snowy owl, and also our eagles are in here, and also the red-tailed hawks and the northern goshawk. And so that's it for East House. We can go right ahead to West House.
Okay, so this is our main
West House building. So this is our heated building, and here is where we have all of our smaller aviaries, so houses for our smaller birds, as well as birds in the wintertime that can't handle the cold. So we have a couple of birds that are native to this area, like Harris's hawks that are found typically out in the southwestern part of the United States. So those guys are going to be up here during the winter, and we keep a lot of our older birds here up here in this building during the winter as well. So this is where we do our food prep. So this main area, we prep. We feed a lot of our hawks and owls day-old chicks, which are left over from poultry farms. We also ice, and then a lot of eagles will get chickens, and then we also do feed a lot of quail to our accipiter birds and our falcons, which would mainly eat birds in the wild. So we kind of try to tailor their diet to what they would eat naturally in the wild, as well as give them some different kinds of food for better nutrition. So this is just kind of our main area. So over here we have like a couple of perches that we would use for weathering the birds. So it's good for birds to be out in the sun and get some vitamin D. So we'll bring them out of their aviaries and basically have them on a leash tied to the perch so they can't fly away, but they can kind of be outside and get some fresh air. And then we also have a couple of leashes and swivels, which we use to handle the birds and keep them on the glove or on a perch without having them fly away. So up and through here is kind of our bird box area. So this is kind of like a standard transport box that you would use for a raptor. So if I open it up, you can see we have newspapers inside, and then there's a perch for the bird to sit on. And then once we close that door, it's going to be pretty dark and quiet inside the box. And because raptors are very highly visual, they rely a lot on their eyesight to figure out what's going on around them. So once it's pretty dark in there, it kind of helps to keep them calm, since they can't really see. They just kind of think it's nighttime since it's dark, and they will go to sleep. So this is kind of our main raptor barn area. So if I can open up the aviary here and show you what it looks like inside. So this is one of our Harris's hawk rooms. So that's Kevin. She is our female Harris's hawk. And so you can see she has a couple of different perches that she has the option to stand on. And then she has a water bowl, which she can use for bathing. A lot of raptors don't really drink very often, but they do like to use the waters for bathing. And then over here, we have kind of our main weigh station for the raptors. So keeping track of their weight is a really important part of like monitoring their health. So it's also important for training purposes because a bird will only respond to you if it's hungry and if it's motivated to do certain things for food. So we try to weigh all of our birds every couple of days if we can, sometimes every day. So we also do a lot of beak trim stuff here. So with the birds, their beaks in the wild are normally kind of worn down when they are like chewing on like larger bones, larger prey items, or like doing things like building nests and that kind of thing. And they don't have as much opportunity to do that in captivity. So we kind of help them out a little bit, and we'll just kind of just take them out every so often, every couple of weeks, and we will kind of wear their beak down for them with a Dremel. So that's kind of the main part of this West House tour. So all of our aviaries kind of look similar, and so I think there are a couple of questions. So someone asked, are there raptors that can't tolerate the cold? So I did kind of go over that. Yes, we do have a lot of birds like the Harris's hawks that aren't native to New York, so they would not be able to survive out in our colder barn in the wintertime. So then, oh yes. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask them now, either in the chat or you can unmute yourself and speak up. And then for the last part of our tour, we are going to do a flight demonstration with one of our northern goshawks. So that should be pretty exciting. So this is Fred. She is a northern goshawk, which is a type of accipiter species. They are native to some of the more northern parts of the United States, so they're pretty tolerant to the cold. So Fred here is actually a female, which we did not find out until this past spring when we found a couple of eggs that she had laid. So she actually has a wing injury, so she can't fly for long distances, but she is partially flighted. So what Crystal is doing here with her is she's attached to this long, really light leash called a creance. So she can't go flying anywhere she wants to, but she is trained to fly back and forth from the perch to the glove. So every time she flies to the glove, she gets a piece of food. And so the type of bird it is a northern goshawk. So being able to work with a bird and getting to a point where you can fly on a creance is a very cool point to get to in working with a raptor, because the raptor trusts you enough to fly to you, even though it could go anywhere. So I don't know if you've heard, but every time she flies to the glove, Crystal will blow the whistle. So the whistle kind of acts as a bridge to let her know that she's done the right thing. So the reason that's important is kind of it links the lets the bird know that it's done the correct thing and it's about to get a food reward. someone asked if the birds respond to voices. So they do a little bit, but they're much more visual. So if you're trying to give them some kind of cue, it's actually a lot easier to give them a visual cue, like some kind of hand motion or something like that. So you can see what she did in the end here is a lot of what falconers will do if they're training their birds to hunt is they will train them to come to a lure. So it's basically kind of something that's a bit like a mock prey item. And so you usually put a good amount of food on it, and then you train the bird. Whenever it comes to the lure and attacks the lure, it will get a significant food reward.
Yeah, usually the lure is the last thing you want to do with the bird before you put them back, because the significant food reward usually leads to a full crop, and that usually leads to them not being as hungry or as cooperative. And a crop is basically a food storage pouch in their esophagus, which they store their food before digesting it. So, yeah, this is Fred.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the demonstration that we have for you guys today. So thank you guys for being such an attentive and interested audience. If you have any last questions, please feel free to ask. We can answer those now.
Hi there. I'm wondering how you guys got interested in working with raptors.
Oh, yes. So I'll go first, I guess. I am actually not planning on doing anything in particular with wildlife when I graduate. I am a chemical engineering major, so I'm hoping to go into research. But I really like animals and really like working with animals. So when I found out about the Raptor program, I decided to join. And then it's been a really fun and rewarding way to kind of be able to get to work with these animals on this kind of level. So I don't know. Do you want to say how you got involved?
After Fred speaks. So yeah, I am an animal science major. I am a pre-vet. I love animals and wildlife more so. I mean, dogs and cats are great too, but this, you can't get any closer to wildlife than this. Yeah, I actually knew about the Raptor program when I was in high school. I wanted to be a birds and prey and raptor, and I actually wanted to do falconry when I was younger. I was not able to do so because well, I just didn't have the resources or the time or the money to do it back home. But yeah, working with these animals has been a very amazing experience for me, and I hope to be able to continue this in vet school and throughout the rest of my life. Oh, where are you going, huh?
Does anybody else have any questions? Nope. Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Kelsey and Crystal will present another program in a month on February 7th at 3 p.m. And we also have the concert coming up on February 14th, Sunday at 3 p.m. with virtual love songs. And all of these programs, of course, are brought to you with funding from the town of Danby, of course. United Way gives us funding for family programs like this one. The Community Arts Partnership helps support our concerts. And of course, we are always willing and even happy to have donations from the public. This particular recording, the Cornell Raptor Program has asked us not to make it publicly available, but if anybody wants to drop an email to the Community Council, use our webpage. There's a email link on there. We are permitted to give it on a one-by-one basis, share a URL where you can watch it for yourself. And with that, I'd like to say thank you all for coming. Let's see if I can get this nice end title back up. There it is.
So much
There
fun.
we go. And thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Crystal. And we'll see you all again another day. Thank you very much.
You guys were a great audience, and we definitely look forward to giving our presentation in February.